So hi, welcome to Make or Repair, and today I'm going to take a look at this HP laptop. So this is an HP Probook 455G1, and I do in fact even have a maintenance and service guide, which is 180 pages, which tells you how to take the screws out really and do a couple of other things. So someone has taken this apart already, so this is the first bit of really bad news. And if we look at the keyboard, I don't know if it shows up particularly well, but for example here the keyboard is indented. Apparently the keyboard doesn't work properly, and if I don't know again if it shows up, across the front here there is clear evidence that someone's had a screwdriver there trying to pull the keyboard out. It's rough on the outer bezel and chips out of the bottom of the keyboard. So this was taken apart because apparently it had a problem with the screen opening and closing action. There's also, by the looks of it, been some spillage on here. I can kind of see some evidence there across the back of some liquid ingress, which is unpleasant. Well, let's start by trying to sort out this keyboard problem. So my hope, if we look here, we can see the keyboard's actually proud on this side, and it's low here, so it's obviously been assembled wrongly. So my hope is that there hasn't been too much damage done. So we do know that it kind of works. It's been powered up and most of the data backed up off the hard drive. Step one, take the battery out. That's good news. Okay, now we have some screws of various types. Jeepers. So there can be an optional security screw in there that is not present. And slide the release latches to gain access to the security cover. Perfect. Okay, so here's our disk spec, here's our memory. Coin cell, very accessible. This is going to be something to do with the Wi-Fi, isn't it, over here? It's a lot better than I feared, but clearly, I mean, I can see over here where screwdrivers have been inserted and scratched around and things like that, so it's not the best in the world. And I seem to have randomly different screws. 4 screws in the hard drive, and they are of 2 different types. Okay, that doesn't look like the right screw. That does look like the right screw. It's probably the correct screw again. And that is a completely different screw. It's difficult to tell, it looks a bit mangled. Like someone hasn't had the right screwdriver. That's it. Drive out. Okay, cool. So I'm also going to remove this one because this is also the wrong screw down here. 2.5 times 3, 2.5 times 3. Okay. Memory modules. Do I need to pop those or not? Yeah, I'm going to pop them. Never know what's underneath anything. Okay, so they're bulk standard memory modules. Pop the wireless LAN and Bluetooth. Cool. And now to the keyboard. And just turn that on so I can see where it is. Oh, it's these two. So the keyboard. So first impressions, other than the damage, there's a lot of damage along this edge, there's a lot of damage along this edge. You might be able to just tidy it up a bit. So first impressions are that there is nothing wrong with the cable. It appears to be inserted correctly, which is kind of a shame really. And there is, oh dear, so this keyboard is bent like a banana. In fact, its steel backing is significantly bent. I'm just straighten it a little bit. Oh, it's been badly distorted as it's been removed. This is why you really do need to get the service manual for these to help you take them apart. Guesswork will get you so far, but not where you need to be really. Let's just try and clean this up. So I'm just kind of scraping off the bad bits that have been lifted up with a screwdriver. Yeah, particularly these function keys at the top are kind of parting company with the rest of the keyboard. Let's take a good look at this. Yeah, that doesn't look like it's been trapped or anything. Yeah, I think this is a lift up bar. Yep, there we go. Just pull it out. So we'll pull it out, we'll clean those contacts as part of the job. Not screwed in properly, but gosh, these are loose. So, okay, just decide whether I'm going to take stuff further. So I've decided it's best on there just to try and remove a few of the worst edges. This fasten's so light, it's ridiculous really. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. There's also Torx T8s. Yeah, a couple of things left to pop out, of course, cables. Okay, this one needs to be a bit cautious because it is actually glued. Okay, cool. This one just here. Oh, that one isn't in. Not even plugged in properly. Hopefully that's all of it. It actually feels that I might have missed one somewhere along the way. There it is, right there. There's always one. Alright, we're off. Just to be good as we pop everything apart. Okay, we are off. Don't really want to do too much with that. This is the relevant cable. It does not want to pop in. Yep. So I'm just going to clean the back of that. So this is just the cable for the monitor. I don't know what else is coming down on this cable, whether there's any data about the lid's open or not on it, for example. I'm not planning to redo all of that though, so make sure that is fully in place and then we can clip it in. It's lovely. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm not doing a lot here. All I'm doing is popping everything apart, cleaning up the various push fit connectors and pretty much strictly leaving everything else alone. So I absolutely think the keyboard problem fully relates to this. Just here. I was hoping to bend that back, but I don't think I'm going to be able to, because I think it is literally going to snap off as I work on it. It's been forced and it's opened up the retaining bracket. Right. Okay. So I'm literally just reassembling this using the manual to make sure all the screws go in the right place this time. Right. So I think I've bent this back as much as I can. What is it? We're in. Yeah. This is like forward as far as it will go. Clip that back as far as that will go. Hold everything down. And slide it back into its recess. I think we're there. That looks correct. Not a lot I can do about that turned up piece, but as far as we go, we are there. Double check what those screws are supposed to be. Phillips. Yes. And another one, Phillips. Fasten those in nice and tight. Okay, moment of truth. Power's on. Is the lights on? Whether there's anyone home or not, who knows? Yeah, bloody hell, that is faint. So the keyboard is actually 100% working now, and actually it doesn't look too bad. It's not great, but it's a lot better than it was. It's actually fitted into position better and isn't quite as uneven as if, you know, it looks flattish. However, we see the screen, we don't see the screen. We see the screen, we don't see the screen. So I'm going to try and get access to the LCD, take a look at the way the cable connects onto it and the actual connection, and also flex the cable and see if there's any internal fault in the cable. Okay, so on that side's hinge, all we've got going through there are the two antennas as far as I can see. And on this side, we've got the multi-purpose cable that we saw, that we've cleaned and reseated. I hate doing this. All we're doing here is just pulling off this front bezel so we can gain better access. Just, I don't know if it's going to come off or whether I've got to take the hinges off. So literally as I move cable down there, that's it, we're stuffed with that cable. That's the cable. So I've taken it apart again so that I can have a double check of this end of the cable, make sure it's seating fine, make sure everything about it is absolutely fine on this end, because I'm very much suspecting a break in the middle of the cable now. But I don't want to buy a new cable if actually it turns out just to be how it's fitted. Okay, so now I've taken it apart a bit further, and my intention is to actually remove the LCD assembly so that I can see the connector, which is unfortunately of course on the back. Just to make sure that the cable is still firmly seated. Okay, so I've had a good look at this connection and it is as firm as anything. You can just see it, that yellow section at the back. That's where the cable is coming on and then splitting off up to the webcam. But there's no problem with the connection at all, so that leaves me with the conclusion that it must be the cable. Okay, so I'm going to call that a day for the time being because that is a faulty video cable. And I don't have another one, and I'll have to see whether the owner wants to actually... I mean, a proper cable cut is about £24. Perhaps get a salvaged one second hand, just the cable itself about £12–13, something in that region. So we'll see what they want to do. Since they have a new laptop, yeah, who knows whether they'll want to bother doing it. So the owners have decided they do want to replace the cable, and I've obtained an HP spare, and you actually get them as a cable kit, the part number being in the manual of course. Doing so, I think I will just loosen the hinge off. Torques. Just because it gives me a bit more access. Again, still hoping not to have to fully take this. Where's the other half of that hinge? Oh, there's a hinge. Hinge screw missing from there. Okay, so now the hinge covers should pop off, they just pull off. Okay, cool. Now I've got access to get to this cable. And also I should be able to pop this piece off fully. Cool. Okay, so I would strongly recommend not removing these cables if you don't have to. Anyway, this is the cable we're interested in. We can see it's got a very sharp bend just there, which is probably not very desirable. And let's see how the screen is held on. Okay, so I was just clearing the space because obviously I'm going to lift this screen out and I don't want to scratch it. It is already quite scuffed and marked, but I don't want to add to that if I don't have to. Now those are very different screws, so I'm keeping those decidedly off to one side. Okay, now this display will pop out, but I think stuck to the back of it. Yep. There's a cable running up to the webcam. So there we go. Now just some padding to pop everything down on so we don't end up scratching stuff. Okay, so here's the webcam. Adhesive on the back. And just a sticky tab holding the connector in. Alright then. Okay, now we can see the actual plug. It's half plugged in. we go in. Cool. Remove that. Pull this up tight so that it cannot come out. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so I'm just using some paper to protect the front, and I've just connected up this. That's pushed in, and I'm just going to grab a bit of double-sided tape just to connect this on the back. And just hinge the display back into roughly its correct position. And flip this over so it is correct. That's it. And here's one webcam. Let's get these tiny screws back in. And now it is pretty much a case of just doing everything in reverse. This is an aside. Now is a very good moment to clean the screen, because it's the one time you can actually get the corners of the screen that are normally inaccessible. Okay, and to do this I'm just using a cloth that is lightly dampened with some distilled water, and I'm just adding a little bit of 70% isopropyl alcohol to it, not 100%, because I want to clean the screen, not damage it. I think it's got everything it needs. And one working display. Just run up Notepad. Okay, they're fine. So just running through, checking all the keys are actually working. Yeah, and what light works. Yeah, return works. F1 definitely works, there it goes. Right button works. So yeah, I'm pretty happy overall. So let's just finish putting all the screws back in, really. So just one screw remaining. and a few of these little covers. And got 2 covers, 3 and 4. Okay, everything seems to be where it's supposed to be. This is all looking good. This goes on the remaining screw. Goes into the security section. There's just the lid around the back. That's good. All looks right. And I've got this. What is this? This was also in the bag. So this is the little foot that goes on here. It's going to pop off all the time, isn't it? So I'll just have to glue that. Drop of glue. This stuff, for those not aware of these things, is an activator. It makes the glue go off faster. There you go. That'll be it. And time for its final test. So I'm not going to go through all of the tests because essentially it's just me typing in every single letter on the keyboard, using the mouse, using the buttons on the mouse, using all the little sort of buttons around the top, turning the radio on and off, all that sort of stuff. Happily, everything seems to now be working, so I'm going to call that a job done. Okay, and there we have it. All fixed, ready to go back. Just give it a quick wipe over with just a damp cloth. So, issues with this, so some of the cables were undone, the keyboard was bent and twisted and had been tried to be levered out with a screwdriver, so that had damaged that, but fortunately just straightening it out again gave it electrical connectivity throughout, so that seems to be adequate. The screen was temperamental, but when you opened it too far the backlight would go off. That seemed to be a cable problem, so this cable here, so I've replaced that with a new one, an HP original, and all seems to be well. And yeah, some screws in the wrong place. 1 or 2 cables were actually loose when I looked, and one of them actually someone's put a screwdriver through it, but fortunately it's a flat cable, had a screwdriver little puncture. Fortunately it was electrically connected, so got away with that, didn't have to replace that cable. You can buy a full cable kit, which is perhaps the best way of getting the originals, or you can buy individual components if you can track them down. Anyway, that's all of it. It's all back together, all the screws are back in the right place. Given it a bit of a clean over as I've been going, and now I'm going to return it to the owner, and I'm actually going to give them the service manual because truthfully it just takes up a lot of space for me and it's likely to be more use to them than it is to me. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, like it down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.